Walk into a brand new kitchen today and everything shines. Stone counters, soft closed drawers, a refrigerator that practically talks to you. And yet, something's missing. You can't always put your finger on it. But if you grew up in the 1970s, you feel it the moment you step inside one of these modern
Que no lo quiero.
kitchens. A kind of quiet emptiness where the warmth used to be. Because the truth is, the kitchen of 1970 something was packed with little things that did real work. Things that saved money. Things that lasted 30 years. Things that pulled a whole family into one room at the end of a long day, and one by one they slipped away. Not with a bang, not with some big announcement, but quietly while nobody was looking. Today, we're going to walk back into that kitchen together and find every single one of them. And I'll tell you right now, stay with me to the very end, because the last thing on this list is the one I'd carry back into every kitchen in America tomorrow, if I only could. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, find your most comfortable chair, and settle in with me for a little while. We're in no hurry today. We're going to take our time and remember the way a kitchen used to be, back when it was the busiest, warmest, most important room in the whole house. And before we start, do an old friend a favor. Tell me down in the comments where you grew up and what your mother's kitchen smelled like on a Sunday morning. I read every single one, and I promise you, those memories are half the reason I make these videos at all. All right, let's open the door and step inside. Number 1. The bread box. Right there on the counter, usually metal, sometimes with a roll-top lid that rattled when you opened it, sat the bread box. And inside lived the loaf, store-bought or, more often, baked that very week, kept fresh without a single drop of plastic. You'd lift that lid and the smell would come up to meet you, yeast and crust and a little bit of sweetness. Nobody thought twice about it. It was just where bread went. But somewhere along the way, the bread box quietly disappeared. We started buying bread sealed in plastic bags full of preservatives, shoving it in the freezer, letting half of it go to waste. Here's the thing, though. The bread box worked. It kept bread at just the right humidity, away from the light, fresher and longer than the bare counter or the cold fridge ever will. Put one back on your counter and you'll throw away less bread, save a little money every week, and your kitchen will smell like a home again. Funny, isn't it? How a simple metal box knew something we managed to forget. Number 2. The percolator. Before there was a machine on every counter taking little plastic pods, there was the percolator, that humble pot that sat right on the stove burner and bubbled away. You remember the sound. That gentle perk, 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 and then the little glass knob on top going dark amber as the coffee grew strong. You could hear it from the next room and smell it from clear upstairs. It woke the whole house better than any alarm clock ever made. We traded it for machines that break in 2 years and pods that cost a small fortune and pile up in the landfill. But that old percolator had no filters to buy, no electronics to fail, nothing to throw away. It made coffee strong enough to stand a spoon up in, and it lasted for decades. A lot of folks are quietly buying them again because they're cheaper to run, they make a better cup, and there's simply nothing to break. Some things, it turns out, were already as good as they ever needed to be. Number 3. The grease can. Right next to the stove, every kitchen had a little can. Sometimes a coffee can, sometimes a special pot with a strainer built into the lid, and into it went the bacon grease. After breakfast, your mother would pour off the drippings and save them, and that golden fat went on to season the cast iron, fry the potatoes, and flavor the green beans, starting 100 suppers. Nothing was wasted. We were taught that pouring out good fat was pouring out money and flavor both. Then somehow we got scared of it, and the grease can vanish down the drain, where, by the way, it clogs your pipes and costs you a plumber. The old way was the smarter way. A spoonful of saved bacon fat turns plain vegetables into something worth eating, and it costs you absolutely nothing, because you already paid for it once. Keep a little jar by the stove again. Your green beans will thank you, and so, I suspect, will your grandmother, watching from wherever it is that grandmothers watch. Number 4. The hand crank flour sifter. It was a tin cylinder with a squeeze handle or a little crank on the side. You'd spoon your flour in the top and turn it, and out came this soft, snowy cloud, light as anything. It made your biscuits rise higher and your cakes come out tender, and children loved to crank it. It was a job you could trust a little one with, standing on a chair at the counter, dusting flour all across the kitchen, and laughing the whole time. We let it go because we got busy, and store flour came pre-sifted, or so they told us. But a sifter does more than fluff the flour. It breaks up the lumps, it blends your baking powder and salt in evenly, and it gives you a lighter, finer crumb you simply can't get any other way. They cost a few dollars at any second-hand store. Buy one, hand it to a grandchild, and watch a forgotten little bit of magic come right back to life. Number 5. The cast iron skillet that lived on the stove. It never went in a cupboard. It sat right there on the back burner, black and heavy and ready, seasoned by 10,000 meals until it was smoother than any fancy non-stick pan you can buy today. Your mother never washed it with soap, and she'd have swatted your hand for trying. A quick wipe, a little salt to scrub it clean, a thin film of oil, and it was done. That skillet fried the eggs, seared the steak, and baked the cornbread, and it would outlive every one of us. Modern pans come with coatings that scratch and flake and have to be thrown in the trash every couple of years. The cast iron asks for none of that. Take care of one and it becomes a true family heirloom. There are skillets being cooked on this very night that a great-grandmother bought during the Depression. Pull yours out of the cupboard, give it a place of honor on the stove, and start the seasoning your own grandchildren will one day inherit. Number 6. The pressure cooker. Now I know for some of you that word brings back the memory of that little weight on top jiggling and hissing, and your mother warning you to stand well back. It sounded like it just might take the roof clean off. But that fearsome pot did something wonderful. It took a cheap, tough cut of meat and a handful of dry beans and turned them into a tender, steaming supper in a fraction of the time and the fuel. On a busy weeknight, it put a hot meal on the table fast, and it stretched the grocery money further than just about anything in the house. We grew afraid of them and tucked them away in the back of the cabinet. And then, wouldn't you know it, they came roaring right back, only now they're electric, and they've got a fancy name, and folks carry on like somebody invented the whole idea last Tuesday. Your mother was decades ahead of all of them. A pressure cooker still saves you time and money, and it still turns the cheapest cuts in the store into the best meal of your week. Number 7. The metal ice cube tray with the lever. Aluminum, cold enough to stick to your fingertips, with that big chrome handle you'd pull up to crack the cubes loose, making a sound like a little machine. Krrrk. They lasted forever. No flimsy plastic to crack and yellow and warp, no bags of store-bought ice to keep buying. You filled it, you froze it, you used it, and you filled it again for 20 years. And listen, if you're enjoying this little trip back in time, do me a kindness and tap that subscribe button. It's free, and it tells the good Lord and the algorithm both that you'd like more of these old memories brought back to life. Now, we're not even halfway through yet, and I haven't forgotten what I promised you. That last item is still coming, and I mean it when I say it's the one that matters most of all. But there's a lot of kitchen left to walk through first. Those old metal trays, by the way, are still made to this day, and they still beat the plastic ones every single time. Number 8. The dish drainer by the sink. After supper, the dishes got washed by hand in a sink full of hot, soapy water, rinsed, and stood up in a wire or plastic rack right there on the counter to dry themselves overnight. No machine humming away for 2 hours, no expensive tablets, no rinse aid, no repair bill the day the pump finally gives out. Now, I'm not going to tell you to throw out your dishwasher. They're a fine thing, and they spare a body's hands and back. But there was something to the old way, too. Washing up by hand after a meal was when the talking happened. One person washed, one person dried, and that's when the day got told. The small troubles, the little victories, the gossip, and the dreams. The dish drainer wasn't just a rack. It was a reason to stand shoulder to shoulder with somebody you loved for 15 quiet minutes at the end of the day. We didn't know we'd miss that. We surely do now. Number 9. The wall phone with the long, curly cord. It hung right there in the kitchen, usually by the doorway. And that cord, my goodness, that cord, it started out a foot long and got stretched over the years until you could walk it clear into the next room, around the corner, into the pantry to whisper a secret. The whole family shared one number. You answered it without ever knowing who'd be on the other end. And when somebody called at supper time, your mother would say, "We're eating, call back later," and hang it right up, and that was the end of it. The kitchen was the heart of the house, partly because that's where the world reached in to find you. We carry the whole world in our pockets now, and somehow we feel further apart than we ever have. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle, I know, but there's wisdom in the old way worth keeping. Pick one room, leave the phones in a basket by the door, and let the supper table be a place the world simply cannot interrupt. Your family will remember those meals long after they've forgotten everything they ever scrolled past. Number 10. The canister set. A matching row of tins or ceramic jars marching along the back of the counter, biggest to smallest, and you knew them all by heart. Flour, sugar, coffee, tea, often in harvest gold or avocado green, the proud colors of the decade. They weren't just decoration, though they were handsome enough. They kept the staples dry, kept the bugs out, and kept everything within arm's reach when your hands were covered in dough and you couldn't go digging through a cupboard. We swapped them for a tangle of half-open paper bags and torn boxes shoved in the back of a pantry, spilling flour everywhere and going stale. The old canisters were simply better. Buy yourself a set. You'll find them for a song at any estate sale. Fill them with your flour and sugar and coffee, and watch how much calmer your counter feels and how much less you waste. Sometimes organization isn't a fancy system you have to go out and buy. Sometimes it's just 4 tins your grandmother already figured out a long time ago. Number 11. The cookie jar. Up on the counter or atop the refrigerator sat the cookie jar. Maybe shaped like a red apple, maybe a fat little chef, maybe a bear hugging a honey pot, and every child in America knew exactly which one was theirs and exactly how loud that lid was when you tried to sneak one out. That ceramic clink was the sound of getting caught, and inside were cookies your mother or grandmother actually made by hand, with butter and real vanilla, not wrapped in plastic from some factory. The cookie jar said something without ever saying a word. It said, "This is a home where somebody bakes, where there's always a little something waiting for you, where you are welcome here." We let it disappear and fill the cupboard with store-bought snacks in crinkly bags. Put a cookie jar back on your counter. Bake one simple batch on a Sunday afternoon. It costs almost nothing, and it turns a plain house back into the kind of place a grandchild can't wait to come and visit. Number 12. The hand crank egg beater. Before every kitchen had a motor for every little thing, there was the rotary beater, 2 whisks that spun when you turned the small wheel on the side. It whipped your cream, beat your eggs, and mixed your pancake batter, and it never once needed to be plugged in or charged up. It didn't wake the baby. It didn't trip the breaker. And it taught a child the simple satisfaction of doing a thing with your own 2 hands and watching it come together right in front of you. We replaced it with gadgets that buzz and need batteries and end up dead in the back of a drawer. But that little beater still works perfectly after 50 years, because there was almost nothing in it that could break. Keep one in the drawer for when the power goes out, or for when you've just got 2 eggs to whip and don't feel like dragging out the heavy mixer and washing all its parts. The simplest tool is very often the one you'll still be using long after the fancy one is dead and gone. Number 13. The Pyrex bowls and baking dishes. That nesting set of mixing bowls, the big one, the middle one, the little one, in those cheerful patterns, and the casserole dishes with the glass lids that went from oven to table to refrigerator without ever missing a beat. They were tough as nails. You could drop one and it would very nearly bounce. They came to every potluck, every holiday, every covered dish supper down at the church, and somehow everybody got their own dish back because your name was taped right there on the bottom. We've got flimsy plastic containers now that stain and warp and never seem to find their own lids. The old Pyrex outlasted marriages. It's so well made that the vintage pieces are collected and treasured today, handed down like jewelry. And we're getting close now. Just a few more. And then the one I've been promising you. The one I'd carry back into every kitchen in this whole country if I had my way. Hold on. We're almost there. Number 14. The flour sack dish towels. Back then, flour and feed came packed in cotton sacks printed with flowers and checks, and a thrifty woman didn't dare throw that good fabric away. She washed it, and it became dish towels, aprons, even little dresses for the girls. Those towels were thin and soft, and they dried a dish without leaving a speck of lint behind, and they lasted for years, only getting softer with every washing. When they finally wore out, they became cleaning rags, and when the rags wore out, they went to the garden. Nothing was ever truly thrown away. We buy rolls and rolls of paper towels now, use them once, and toss them in the trash, money going straight into the garbage every single day. A stack of good cotton towels costs a few dollars one time and then serves you faithfully for a decade. Our grandmothers practiced what folks today call sustainability, except they didn't have a fancy word for it. They just called it good sense and not being wasteful, and that's a lesson worth folding right back into your kitchen drawer. Number 15. The Sunbeam Mixmaster on the counter. Heavy, chrome, built like a tank, with a bowl that turned itself while the beaters spun. That stand mixer was the proud centerpiece of the whole counter, and it wasn't a bit unusual for one to run faithfully for 40 years and then get handed down to a daughter, still working perfectly. They built things to last back then, and a tool like that was an investment you made just once. And speaking of things worth keeping, if these memories are stirring something in you, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet, and ring that little bell so the next one of these finds its way to you. It truly does help an old storyteller keep these tales alive. Now, that Mixmaster, they don't build many like it anymore, where you buy it one time and never think about it again. But you can still find the old ones, rebuilt and humming along, for less than the throwaway models cost brand new. Quality used to be the normal way of things, and there's no reason on earth we can't choose it again. Number 16. The wall-mounted can opener. Bolted right to the wall or the side of a cabinet, you'd set the can up in its little jaws, push the handle down, and turn the crank, and it walked itself right around the lid. No batteries, no electric motor whining away on the counter, no replacing it every couple of years when the little gears stripped out. It was always in the very same spot, so it was never lost at the bottom of a junk drawer, and a child could be sent to open the can of beans and feel like a real and useful help in the kitchen. We have electric ones now that hog the counter and die just past the warranty. The hand crank simply worked, year after year after year, and asked for nothing in return. There's a quiet kind of freedom in owning tools that don't need a cord, a charge, or a subscription. The fewer things in your kitchen that can break, the fewer things there are to let you down on the very night you need them most. Number 17. The Book of Trading Stamps in the kitchen drawer. S&H green stamps, and others like them. The grocer or the fellow at the gas station handed them to you with your purchase, and you'd bring them home, and the children would lick them and paste them carefully into little books. And when you'd saved up enough, that drawer full of books became a toaster, a lamp, a whole set of dishes, a real reward for being a loyal and careful shopper. It made thrift feel like a game the entire family played together. That drawer where they lived was a little bank of patience. We've got points and apps now that nobody fully understands, and that seem to expire the very moment you forget about them, but the habit underneath those stamps is timeless. Reward yourself slowly, save toward something real, and let the children see with their own eyes that good things come to those who are patient and steady. The stamps are long gone. The wisdom of saving a little toward something better never has to be. Number 18. The deep, well-stocked pantry. Not a fancy walk-in with special lighting, just a closet or some shelves down in the cool of the cellar, lined with what folks called putting up, jars of tomatoes and green beans and peaches that came right out of the summer garden, bags of flour and sugar, enough to truly last. A family in the 70s could weather a snowstorm, a layoff, a sickness, a long, lean stretch, because the pantry was deep enough to carry them clear through it. There was a deep and real peace in that, knowing that no matter what the week threw at you, your family was going to eat. We switched over to buying just enough for a day or two, running to the store at every turn, paying full price, at the mercy of every empty shelf. The old way was security you could see and reach out and touch. And you don't need to can a single thing to start. Just keep a few extra weeks of the basics on hand. It costs you a little now and buys you a great deal of peace later. Our grandparents slept soundly because of that pantry. And so, my friend, can you... Number 19. The kitchen table as the heart of the home. Now this one's a little different, because it wasn't a gadget or a tool at all. It was the very center of everything. That table did the work of 10 rooms: breakfast before school and supper after work, homework spread out under the light, bills paid and budgets figured with a pencil and a worried brow, pie crust rolled out on a floured cloth, cards on a Friday night, and coffee with a neighbor who dropped by, and the long, hard talks that every family has to have sooner or later. Everybody had their own chair, and woe to the guest who accidentally sat down in your father's. The table is where a family became a family, one ordinary meal at a time. So many homes now eat in front of a glowing screen, in separate rooms, at separate hours, but that table is still there in nearly every house, just waiting. Sit down at it tonight. Call everyone to come to it. You don't need a single thing you don't already own to bring back the most important piece of the whole kitchen. And now, number 20. The one I've been promising you since the very beginning. The handwritten recipe box. A little tin or wooden box, sitting there on the shelf, packed full of index cards, gone soft and yellow at the edges, spattered with grease and vanilla, and the honest work of real hands. And on every one of those cards was your mother's handwriting, or your grandmother's, the loops of her letters, the way she'd scribble a little note down in the corner, add a pinch more, or Daddy's favorite, or from Aunt Ruth, 1952. That box held a great deal more than recipes. It held her. It was the only place on this earth some of those dishes ever existed, never written down anywhere else in the whole world, and it was meant to be handed down, card by card, hand to hand, from one generation to the next. And here is exactly why this is the one I'd carry back into every kitchen in America if I only could. We've put it all on our phones now. A million recipes, free and instant, buried in flashing advertisements, and forgotten the very moment we close the screen. And when those of us who remember are finally gone, that handwriting goes right along with us. Nobody can inherit a website. Nobody hugs a search engine on a hard day and smells the kitchen of their childhood. But a grandchild can hold that little card, see your own hand there on the paper, make your biscuits, and have you back in the room with them for one whole afternoon, long after you've gone on ahead. So do this for me, would you? Before another season passes by, get yourself a box and a few blank cards, and write down your handful of recipes in your own hand, the ones your family always begs for. That box may very well turn out to be the most precious thing you ever leave behind. It cost you $1 and one quiet evening, and it is worth more than anything money could ever buy. So that's our walk back through the old kitchen, all the little things that slipped away so quietly that nobody ever stood up and said goodbye to them. The bread box and the percolator, the grease can and the cast iron, the cookie jar, the deep pantry, the table, and that precious box of cards, not one of them vanished because it stopped working. They vanished because we got busy, and we got sold something new, and we looked away for just a moment. But here's the wonderful thing. Almost every single one of them is still within your reach. You can put them right back, starting tomorrow, starting even today. Now, I'd truly love to hear from you. Of everything we talked about, which one do you miss the most? And tell me the number, and tell me whose kitchen you remember it in. Your mother's? Your grandmother's? I'll be down there in the comments reading every last one. And if this brought the old days back to life for you, even for just a few minutes, do subscribe and stay with us, because there's a whole world of these memories left to remember together. Until next time, take good care of yourself and go save those